Hello, Syngap land. My name is Michael Graglia, and this is episode 167 of Syngap 10, the Syngap 1 podcast. Today is Wednesday, March 26, and we are in week 13 of the year 2025. The last episode, episode 166 of Syngap 10, was pretty remarkable. It's where I focused on unmet need and practiced a talk I'm going to give next week to one of our pharma partners. If you haven't watched it, please do. I will say that just going off the YouTube views, not even looking at the listens on all the different podcasts, this has been viewed almost 600 times. That is more than double my best other podcast. And frankly, most of these podcasts on YouTube get maybe over 100. So this one really struck a nerve. And if you haven't seen it, go back and listen to it and then read the comments. The comments from families have been really remarkable. And if you have a comment you want to leave in there, if you think I missed something, if it resonated with you, whatever, put it in the comments, because this is a really important episode where this company asked me to talk about the unmet need, and I did. And there's a difference between the unmet need and describing the disease, right? So anyway, go check it out. One of the things that podcast did, and the conversation that episode caused, is we decided to do a study. We decided to survey ourselves and say, hey, who would do a clinical trial? Who would jump in? What are your concerns? We've already had, in just 3 or 4 days, over 130 people reply. About half of them in the U.S., a little more than half of them in the U.S., half of them from other countries, primarily Poland and Australia. I got to say, the Polish and Australian communities, amazingly organized. But it's not too late for you to take part in this really quick survey. It's not going to take you more than 5 minutes. Would you take part in a clinical trial? If yes, great. If no, why not? Basically. Super interesting response. We will read out the responses once we get a few more in probably a blog and a webinar. But guys, this is what it's all about. The whole reason this company asked me this question is they need to believe that if they invest in making a clinical trial for Syngap, we will actually show up and take part in that trial. So this is go time, guys. It's getting close to reality, and I think that is an important question, and this is an important survey. So if you haven't watched 166, go watch it, but you probably already have. And then do this survey if you haven't already. And if you know other Syngap families who aren't quite as plugged in as you are, maybe send them both things, 166 and the survey, and say, hey, this is important. Take this. Since episode 164, so if you remember, we had the whole Safe Medicaid thing, and then we had this unmet need thing. So it's been a little while, but back in episode 164, we announced the Children's Colorado grant, where we expanded the Promised Natural History Study from CHOP over to Colorado Children's. And really exciting. And if you were in the mountain region, I just talked to newly diagnosed dads today in Utah. I told him, get over there, go to CHOP, go now. And he's like, what's a natural history study? And why should I take part? And it reminds me that I probably need to do an updated podcast on that. But for now, there's 3 clinics in America that are truly expert at Syngap. And these are Philadelphia, Children's Hospital Philadelphia, CHOP, Children's Colorado, CHOC, and Stanford, as well as obviously Boston Children's and Weill Cornell. But those first 3, CHOP, CHOC, and Stanford, are the places where we are investing in and partnering closely with clinicians to have multidisciplinary clinics, and we're collecting that data to improve our odds of getting through a clinical trial. So Go to the natural history study sites if you haven't been. Go to our website, Google natural history. There's a lot. But anyway, since that announcement in episode 164, we have released 2 more press releases. Press release 36 was to a grant to Dr. Julia Dallman down in Florida. She's been working on Syngap for years with her fish. And what's cool about zebrafish is they're translucent, which means you can see through them. What means light passes through them. Transparent means you can, whatever. You can see the poop inside them moving. And that means you can have a healthy zebrafish and a Syngap zebrafish, and you can see how slowly the poop moves through the Syngap zebrafish. So they're a great way to test drugs to see if we can get the poop moving faster. So and pretty much, I don't know of any Syngapians who don't have constipation issues or GI issues or reflux issues. So this is a really important grant where Dr. Dallman is going to be able to test drugs on fish and come back to us and tell us what has the highest likelihood of helping relieve constipation. So super important. Thank you to our donors. Thank you for raising money for SRF and giving money to SRF. It allows us to give grants like this to Dr. Dallman. Go ahead and read press release 36. So you can go to CHCO.org/PR36, or you can look at the full link in the show notes. Also, PR37 was to Professor Sohal at UCSF, a great institution in my backyard, and CureSyngap1.org/PR37. And he is looking at really innovative science that I'm not going to get into in this podcast, but really cool stuff. Go read it for looking at meds that improve cognition. So here they're working with mice and they're doing some cool optical stuff. But at the end of the day, they're testing to see if certain drugs could help Syngapians with cognition. Again, super important, funded by SRF's donors. Thank you. This is why we urge you to raise money for SRF so we can do more grants like this. Speaking of raising money for SRF, Sprint4Syngap is in exactly 1 month on April 26th. It is not too late to start a team or join a team. Find an event near you. If there isn't an event, start an event near you. And just get your friends together, get your family together, and start a team and raise some money for Syngap research. These funds will be used to identify great clinicians and great researchers, and we only will invest in things where we think this could result in us getting better therapies and treatments for our kids. That's it. We're not doing science experiments, guys. We are just laser focused. Drugs, drugs, drugs. How can we help our kids live better lives? How can we take the burden off of caregivers? How can we reduce suffering? So read PR36, read PR37, Dallman and Sohal, and then go ahead and start a team for Sprint4Syngap. And if you're like, what is this Sprint4Syngap? I included a little YouTube link here about just some different pictures of different Sprint4Syngap events that were last year. Truly excellent work. There's been a lot of content development. I got to say, our team is cranking out incredible content. So Syngap Stories, you had Rainey interviewing Catherine Heldy, Dr. Catherine Heldy, our CSO, whose son Joey is, I hope I get this right, 23 now. Incredible. Catherine is incredible. If you haven't had the privilege of working with her and talking to her, listen to episode 32 of Syngap Stories. If you speak Spanish, Merlina interviewed Jaime, who was recently diagnosed and promptly joined the board of SRF. Excellent work, Jaime. And he's great. I wish I spoke Spanish so I could have listened to that podcast, but I watched like a couple minutes and he's just such a great guy. So anyway, check out the Jaime podcast if you speak Spanish or like subtitles. And then sibling stories, we have Callan. Thank you, Hillary, for doing that with your son, Callan, talking about her sibling. And I think this is something where with the sibling stories, we're starting another collection where we're profiling the siblings. And as we all know, those of us with a Syngapian and a wild type, I think we should call it the wild type series, not the siblings, but whatever. Decisions have been made. I'm not in charge anymore, apparently. So this wild type, Callan, is... I think it's great that we're looking at and celebrating the siblings. So we had Nancy, who's Karen's sister. We had Paulina, who's Libby and Espy's sister. And now we have Kellen, who is Bryson's brother. Really important to tell these stories and let our other siblings read them and understand that they are part of a very special and important club by helping us parents take care of their siblings. It's just amazing project there, and I'm so proud of the team for that. One of my heroes, Denny Williams, did a little reel for us that you can see on Facebook, and Denny is the founder of SRF Australia. And to be clear, when I started SRF US and I realized she already had chosen that name, I called her. I said, "Hey, do you mind if I use the same name?" She said, "No, go for it. Whatever you want." And she's just been collaborative and wonderful ever since. So Denny Williams, the founder of SRF Australia, is doing a brief video talking about how important it is to come to the conference and how she comes every year, and it's like a bajillion-hour flight for her. So watch that and then go ahead and pre-register for the conference, CureSyngap1.org/pre25. It's going to be so important to come together for that conference. And then one more way to get to know the community, I will be doing a webinar with Virginie tomorrow on Thursday, webinar 100, about the impact report. And we will be going through the impact report. So you can register for that, CureSyngap1.org/IR for impact report 24, because it is about the year 2024. Please join us and please get familiar with the impact report. The impact report is something you can give to donors, friends, and family and say, this is SRF, this is what they get done, this is why we should be fundraising for them, supporting them, giving to them, doing Sprint4Syngap, because they are working ultimately to make a better future and better medicines for our loved ones. PubMed. If you don't know what PubMed is, it's where all the scientific journals are listed there and you can search for anything.
I search for Syngap 1 and it tells me exactly how many papers there are. It's 321 papers about Syngap 1 in PubMed since the gene was discovered by Dr. Hugh Gannier, Professor Hugh Gannier. 13 of those have been in 2025, which is the year we're in. And as you note on the top of the podcast, I mentioned we're in week 13. So we're clipping along at one a week. Now, the fiasco at the NIH will probably slow down a lot of scientific work and publications. So I'm less hopeful that we're going to have more publications this year than we had last year. At the end of last year, we had 54 publications on Syngap 1. So we're really we were in hockey stick mode. I don't know if we're still going to be in hockey stick mode of what's going on in NIH, but what I can tell you is that right now we're at one a week, and paper 13 came out this week, and it's a very important paper. The paper came out for Gillian McKee and CHOP team. Catherine Heldy and I are both named as authors because we helped with the data. But really, Jillian did all the work, and that's pretty exciting. It's another paper you can hand to your doctor and say, this is how you can learn about Syngap. And what's beautiful about it is they use CHOP data, Children's Philadelphia, claims data, and citizen data. And then that's how. And so this is very data rich, and the findings there are pretty interesting. I'm not going to get into them right now. We should probably have Jillian do a webinar, but that paper is unfortunately not available to the public, but you can read the preprint, which is available to the public, and it's kind of sort of basically the same. So both links in the show notes. Check out that paper. Congratulations to Dr. McKee and the team at CHOP. Really exciting. And thank you, everybody who signed up for Citizen and let their medical records data be available for research, because that research is now in a publication in, Genetics in Medicine, which is a serious journal. So doctors will take that paper very seriously. If you have not signed up for Citizen, if you're new, you're like, what's Citizen Health? Go to Citizen Health, links in the show notes. Make sure you use that link. You have to come in through the SRF link. Go to Citizen Health, sign up and join Citizen, and share your medical records. You get a beautiful dashboard. You get all your medical records in one place. It's very useful and helpful for you. But most importantly, that data is distilled, analyzed, and shared with researchers and companies who are working on Syngap 1. And that's incredibly valuable data. And guess what? It costs you nothing. And actually, it saves you a bunch of work because it's pulling all your records in one place. So sign up for Citizen. And if you have signed up for Citizen, but you're like, wait, what's my login? Go to the website, reset your password if you've forgotten it. And every doctor you've ever requested data from, you have the option of saying, oh, I've been there since the last time I requested 6 months ago, 12 months ago, whatever it is. Get all my records, get all my records, get all my records. And they will reach out to those doctors and they will collect all your records. You will get a PDF in your dashboard, and that data will be available the next time that they take all those PDFs and turn them into beautiful data-rich spreadsheets. So super important. The McKee paper out of CHOP is another example of why Citizen is so important. Also important. So I've talked about money, fundraising. I've talked about data, medical records. Let's talk about blood and breath. There is a biorepository roadshow. Links in the show notes. Look at that list of locations and go to one of those biorepository roadshows with your Syngapian and a same-sex family member. Let's collect some blood. Let's do some sample gathering. And all you have to do is there's different rare disease conferences around the country. We all partner through Combined Brain. And if you show up and say, I'm with Syngap, I want to give blood, they'll take your blood. It'll go into the Combined Brain biobank. And then when researchers or companies need that blood for whatever, it'll be right there. And we don't have to call you and be like, oh my gosh, we need blood. Please give it, donate. No, it's all done. It's all in the biobank. Super important, super valuable. Please go ahead and do that. Check out the link in the show notes. If you're bringing your Syngapian to our conference, the roadshow will be at our conference as well, so you will have an opportunity to give a sample there. But if they're doing a conference near you sometime this year, just get it out of the way. One less thing to do. Also in episode 164, we asked you guys to give us some feedback on great nonprofits. This is a website that ranks nonprofits, and you can go there and just say nice things about SRF. 15 of you did that. Really nice things that people have said. Go ahead and read it if you want. If you feel compelled, feel free to leave as a review. Reviews matter. Newly diagnosed families show up every time. They're like, who is this Mike guy? What's going on? What's SRF? And they go to great nonprofits and they see what people are saying. They're like, okay, this is legit. I should talk to them. And that's how we connect families to our incredible community. So thanks for that. If you are new to the community, or even if you're not a volunteer with SRF, there's still time. There's so much work to do. We need every kind of talent. We need design. We need project management. We need people to call people. We need people to thank people. You don't have to be scientific. You don't have to be technical. We need your help to help build SRF and make an organization that's strong enough to improve the future for our loved ones. Wrapping up, social media matters. We have 3,971 followers on LinkedIn, 1,311 followers on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. These are really important platforms, and getting followers sends out a great signal. Please join us there. We're also on Twitter and Insta and lots of other stuff. But and if you're newly diagnosed, there are resources for you. There's a community for you. Links in the show notes. Finally, this is a podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, please give us a review so the next family that comes along sees Syngap 10, starts listening, and learns what they need to know to make the future better for their loved one. Thank you for listening. This has been episode 167 of Syngap 10. I will see you soon.